In the way that a damp towel on a bathroom floor is the perfect breeding ground for mushrooms, Adult Swim is the perfect breeding ground for lost media. Since 2001, they've been hitting you late at night at key moments of tiredness and/or inebriation with content that years later, you might not be sure if you vaguely remember it or just dreamed it. Fake commercials, redubs of old cartoons, bumpers that only aired a handful of times. So it stands to reason that there'd be a lot of stuff from Adult Swim that over the years people have unsuccessfully tried to dig up. A lot of it, they're not even really sure if they saw it on Adult Swim or if they even really saw it at all. So for this video, YLM number 8, let's take a look at some Adult Swim lost media. This video is sponsored by Incogni. Your personal data is worth a lot of money, and even if you're really diligent about maintaining your privacy, sometimes it still gets out there. Your name, your address, sometimes even your social security number. Whether it be through data breaches, signing up for credit cards, tracking cookies on websites, they find a way. At this point, most of the phone calls I get are spam. No idea how they even got my number. And like half of them are in Chinese. I guess they're like, oh, Wang, he must speak Chinese. Most of the marketing spam you get finds its way to you through data brokers who sell your data, but you have a legal right to remove yourself from their databases. However, the process of actually doing this in the correct legal language is incredibly time-consuming. When I signed up for Incogni, I found that 100 data brokers had my info. There's no way I would have found all of these on my own, let alone sat there and dealt with each of these companies to have my stuff removed. But Incogni takes care of it for you. Incogni promptly requested a removal from all of them, and I can watch as they are in progress and completed. To start with Incogni, go to incogni.com/wang, or just click the link in the description. The first 100 people to use code WANG will get 20% off. Once again, that's incogni.com/wang, code WANG, to get started removing your information from data brokers. This first submission comes from a viewer named Mecha Gojira, and it's likely from sometime between 2006 to 2008. Around this time, Mecha Gojira would watch Naruto on Adult Swim at night until Futurama came on, and at that point, his parents would come in and tell him to turn off the TV and go to bed. But there were some nights where he managed to stay up and watch Futurama without getting caught. And it was on one of these nights that he saw a piece of media that's haunted him for years. Anyways, one night when I was trying to stay up later than I was allowed, after the episode of whichever show ended, it cut to the inside of a hospital. A doctor was looking at the camera and introduced the name of the show, and said that the hospital is special or something like that. Then, a man is wheeled past the camera and the doctor. It cuts to a delivery room, and the man acts like he is giving birth and is wheezing. The doctor/host looks at him and talks the viewer through what is happening. Then, a green/yellow ball thing that looks like an alien shoots out from under the man's gown, as if this is his child. I think it then cuts to the doctor holding this mass, but this part I'm not sure of. He was so creeped out by this that he turned off the TV voluntarily, and he hasn't been able to find it ever since. At first, I thought that this was likely an episode of Children's Hospital, but I couldn't find an episode that matches up with his description, and also the timeline for that show doesn't match up with his timeline. He noted in his email that he left his apartment in September of 2008, and then they didn't get cable again for a while. Children's Hospital didn't air on Adult Swim until 2010, and even the original web series of the show wasn't created until December of 2008. He wrote that he doesn't think that this was a part of a series, rather some kind of one-off short. And judging by his description, that's also what I'm thinking. It seems like the kind of segment they might have stuck between shows. A sort of thing that happened a lot. This next submission was sent to me by a few different people. It's about a song from a mysterious bumper that aired in 2015. The bumper is an advertisement for the element potassium, which, as it notes in glorious papyrus font, is ranked number 19 on the periodic table and is found in bananas. And the video features a song that's more on the butt rock spectrum of nu metal. Nobody seems to have any idea who this band is or knows where the rest of the song is. I tried running it through Shazam and nothing turned up, and none of the searches I did for any of the lyrics I could make out turned up anything. In the video, there's a booking contact to get potassium for kids' parties and weddings at the email address potassium69@yahoo.com. And this was a real email, as confirmed by my failed attempt at trying to make the email, but when I sent an email to it bounced back, so it's not working. One person in the Vimeo comments tried to contact Adult Swim about this years ago, but they didn't get any response. Personally, I have no clue what band this could be. And I was thinking, you know who might know? Crazy ass moments in nu metal history. So I hit him up, but neither he nor his followers had any idea who this is. In all likelihood, I think this is a situation like that Lost King of the Hill song I covered a few years back, where it turned out that the song was made by a small obscure local band. It's me from the future, and it looks like this one actually did get solved. One of Crazy Ass Moments in Nu Metal History's followers, Trap Goth Wizard, found that this was actually a licensed track entitled Mr. So Broke. It's an instrumental track, and it had vocals added over it, presumably by Matthew Hutchinson of Adult Swim, who has the track on his Vimeo. The next submission is from a viewer named Davey and dates from around 2012. When Davey started dating his current wife, her kid watched a lot of cartoons. He noted that it was mostly Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, and also note that this child was 6 years old and mostly watched stuff for younger kids. So it's likely that this wasn't on Adult Swim, but I just felt like this particular story fit with this video. Anyway, here's what Davey remembers seeing. On a couple occasions, I recall going into his bedroom and watching a few minutes of cartoons with him, and I distinctly remember seeing this really strange cartoon that had a secondary character who was clearly suffering from some form of intestinal ailment, made clear by the character's green color and the presence of a colostomy bag on his side. Every once in a while, the character could be seen removing the tube from his side and drinking from it. Yeah, I know. Honestly, I'm completely lost with this one. Davey mentions that there's a possibility that he misinterpreted what he saw, and if this was a show for younger kids, that's probably the case. I don't think there would be a guy in a show for 6-year-olds sipping out of a colostomy bag, but in any case, no search I'm making seems to be turning up anything even in the ballpark. And thankfully, there were surprisingly few results I got from DeviantArt. Although I did find this anthropomorphized colostomy bag from a poop tube advocacy group. I have a feeling though that if what happened in this cartoon was misinterpreted, it's gonna be hilarious when we find out what was actually going on that he thought was a sippy Capri Sun colostomy bag. Now here's one that was submitted by quite a few people. The Lost Pilot to Boondocks. So the Boondocks cartoon, as you probably know, was based on a popular comic by the same name, and before it became one of Adult Swim's most beloved series of all time, it was originally going to be made for Fox. Fox ordered a 7-minute pilot to be made of the Boondocks. And Aaron McGruder explained in an interview with the AV Club shortly after the release of the actual Adult Swim series, that the difficulties of working with broadcast TV made the original pilot not as good as it could have been. What happened with Fox specifically? We did our best to do a Fox show, but frankly, I don't think the difficulties we had at Fox would be exclusive to Fox. I just think broadcast television in general is a very restrictive place. It's tough to be funny because there's so many eyeballs and there's so much money at stake that I think everything is just kind of overthought. And it's tough to be daring and do something different, either with regards to content or even structure. It's really a rigid landscape, and you can honestly see it in the show. Fox would ultimately reject this pilot, but Adult Swim wanted it. However, since you could get away with a lot more on Adult Swim because it was on cable, they just started completely over and never used the original pilot. Some people have claimed to have seen the entire 7-minute pilot at conventions, but there's no proof of that. And none of this pilot had touched the internet until May 7th of 2016, when in a now deleted tweet, Boondocks producer Carl Jones shared a short clip of it. Commenters noted the difference in art style, which was a little bit closer to the looks of the comics than that of the Adult Swim show. I think it's likely that there's some copyright issue that's preventing this from being shown, because Fox ordered the pilot and therefore they most likely own it. If I had to guess, that's probably also why Carl deleted his tweet. But this seems the kind of thing to me where I'm confident that it'll eventually just get leaked one day. But I'm sure when that happens, we're also going to find out why it wasn't aired. This final one is also something that a few people asked me about. That being the lost pilot of the Eric Andre show. In an interview with The Laugh Button, Eric speaks about the development of the show. He had wanted to make something for a while, but he knew that his style of comedy was super visual and, as he describes it, a crazy stream of conscious. He knew that he would not be able to sell this with just a script, so he shot what he refers to as the 7-minute demo of the Eric Andre show. He's able to rent out an abandoned bodega in Brooklyn, and when that's all said and done, he doesn't have any money for it to be professionally edited, so he learns Final Cut Pro himself and does it. And at that point, he starts shopping it around, and it's getting rejected everywhere because companies don't really get the cheap look of it or anything like that. But Adult Swim understood what he was trying to do, and obviously they went and they bought the show.
Since I started this speech, 17 people have died from pizza. Pizza safety isn't safe.
But like with Boondocks, rather than use the pilot that was already made, they had him start over fresh, and the original was never shown in its entirety. A couple of the pilot sketches did make it to the show though, such as the one where he shows up to a Civil War reenactment dressed up as a slave. People also think that the interview with Russell Brand and the Hannibal's Kitchen segment were also possibly from the pilot, as evidenced by the cheaper looking set. An unreleased sketch from the demo was first shown on the Conan O'Brien show, where Eric is dressed up as Ronald McDonald and he shows up to a McDonald's. According to a commenter on Fandom, the entire demo used to be available on Vimeo, but it was eventually taken down. So it's quite possible that a fan from that time downloaded it and still has it sitting around on the computer. Although I think if that was the case, they probably would have been a big fan of Eric Andre and they probably would have re-uploaded it by now. But when it comes to this one, I'm pretty confident that we will eventually see some sort of official release from it. Whether it be for some kind of DVD set, or maybe upload to the website, I don't see why they would keep this under wraps forever. But anyway, that's all of the Adult Swim Lost Media that I have for this episode. If you have any Lost Media suggestions of your own, email me at wanglostmedia@gmail.com. And if you like this video, check out my video about Nickelodeon Lost Media. I'm out.